welcome to the deep dive. You're here because, well, you want to understand things deeply, right? To get real value from information without getting lost in all the details.
Exactly.
Today, our mission is pretty focused. We're looking at resources from Mastering Communication and Vocabulary with happytalk.in. We have some excerpts from their English learning podcast, and we're basically going to break them down. The goal, to pull out key insights on communicating better and, building our vocabulary effectively.
Yeah, and we know you want knowledge that actually sticks without feeling overwhelmed. Think of this as a shortcut to grasping some core communication ideas shown through, well, real examples.
Okay, let's jump in. The happytalk.in podcast shared this story, The Eco-Heroes of Santapura. Seems like a great place to start.
It really is. It sets the stage perfectly. So Santapura in Indonesia, they had this problem, lots of litter, a polluted river. Pretty common issue, unfortunately.
We hear about that a lot.
But what's interesting here is who tackled it. A group of high school students, just 14 to 17 years old, they decided, let's start a recycling program.
Wow, teenagers taking the lead. Okay.
And the one who kicked it off was Dika, 15 years old, apparently a real science enthusiast. He just stood up in a meeting and said, basically, we can start a recycling program to save Santapura.
Bold move. But I bet not everyone was immediately on board.
You guessed it. That's where it gets interesting communication-wise. His classmates were skeptical. That's a huge task, or who's going to listen to us kids?
Yeah, that sounds realistic, that initial doubt.
It really highlights that first hurdle, doesn't it? Getting past the it's too big or it won't work feeling.
Definitely. So how did Dika handle that?
His response was key. He said something like, if we communicate clearly and work as a team, we can make a difference. Really putting communication front and center.
Framing it as a solvable problem if they communicate well. Smart.
And they gave themselves a name, Eco-Heroes.
Oh, nice touch. Creates an identity.
Exactly. It's a subtle thing, but naming your project. It helps unify people, makes it more inspiring. Then they got practical about communication.
How so?
They used a mix of methods. They posted on happytalk.in's community forum, which is clever, using the platform's features, right?
Leveraging the tool they were already using for learning.
And they also did the traditional stuff like going door to door, actually talking to people, explaining why sorting plastic and paper helps.
So digital and face-to-face, covering their bases. Did it work right away?
Well, no. And that's also important. Participation was low at first. It wasn't some overnight success story.
Okay, that makes it more relatable, actually. What did they do then?
They didn't quit. They adapted. They made fun posters, created short videos specifically for Happy Talk in showing they understood that platform.
Smart. Tailoring the message.
And they even put on a skit in the town square.
A skit. That's brilliant. A really engaging way to get attention.
Totally. Thinking outside the box to, cut through the noise, and that's when things started to shift.
Ah, the turning point.
Seems like it. The mayor noticed them, saw what they were doing, and actually gave them a warehouse to use as a recycling center.
Wow. Okay. Official support. That must have been huge.
Absolutely. Big boost in credibility and, well, practical help. It showed the town this was serious. Then the students, they rolled up their sleeves, cleaned the warehouse, built sorting bins, labeled everything plastic, paper, glass.
Making it real. Moving from talk to action.
Crucial step. And they didn't stop there. They realized education was key for long-term change, so they ran workshops.
Workshops. On what?
On how to reuse things, like turning old bottles into planters. Really practical stuff that shows the value in what people might see as trash.
That's clever. Making recycling tangible and useful.
And then there was Lila's Trash to Treasure contest.
Ooh, tell me about that.
Just a fantastic idea. Get people creative, turn waste into art or useful items, and then showcase it using happytalk.in's social media. It apparently went viral.
No kidding. That's the power of combining a good cause with some fun and, well, smart use of social platforms.
Exactly. So fast forward just 4 months.
4 months. What happened?
Santipura had its first recycling center up and running. Over 500 families were participating. The river was cleaner, town square looked better. Real, visible change.
That's incredible progress in such a short time. It really shows what focused communication and action can do.
Yeah, and there's this quote from a teacher, Mrs. Sari. She said, "These students taught us all how to care for our home." Just hits home, doesn't it?
It really does. Community learning led by kids.
And Dika himself sums it up perfectly. He said, communication was our superpower. Listening, explaining, inspiring. That was their formula.
Communication was our superpower. I like that. Simple, powerful, and they're planning to expand.
Yep. to nearby towns. Shows the model works and they believe in it.
So the big takeaway for you listening,
Hmm.
a good idea isn't enough. You need to communicate it clearly, handle doubts, inspire people, and be ready to adapt your approach. That's how change happens.
Precisely. That story sets us up nicely for the next part, which is looking at some specific language tools from the happytalk.in podcast. They pulled out key vocabulary from the story.
Right, the vocabulary focus.
Yeah.
Good way to make this practical. What were the words?
Okay, there were 7. Passionate, skeptical, recycle, inspire, sort, workshop, and environment.
Let's unpack those a bit. Passionate, like Dika's feeling about recycling. Strong enthusiasm.
Right. Then skeptical, that doubt his classmates felt initially, not fully believing.
Recycle the main activity, processing waste. Inspire what the eco-heroes did, motivating the town.
Sort,
Yeah.
arranging the trash, putting things in order,
Yeah.
workshop those educational meetings they held, teaching skills.
And environment, the natural world they were trying to protect. Makes sense.
And using these specific words, adds precision. Calling Dika passionate is stronger than just saying he was interested.
True. Adds depth.
Yeah.
The podcast apparently encouraged listeners to repeat them, make sentences.
Yeah, that active use, that's how new words really stick. You have to play with them, make them your own.
Makes sense. Okay, so vocabulary is one tool. What else did Happy Talk that uncover?
Grammar. Specifically, the first conditional.
The if-then structure. Important for talking about the future.
Exactly. Talking about real possibilities. The structure is if plus present simple, then will or can plus the base verb. Like Dika's quote again. If we communicate clearly, we can make a difference.
Action and likely result. Clear connection.
Right. And they gave other examples like, if I practice, I will speak fluently. Or, linking back to the story, if we sort the trash, we can recycle more.
Okay, I see. It connects a condition to a probable future outcome.
Precisely. And they had examples for the learner too. If you join happytalk.in, you will improve your English. Or if I attend the workshop, I can learn new skills. It shows potential benefits clearly.
So it's not just hypothetical. It's about likely results if the if part happens.
That's the key. It feels achievable. They also gave practice sentences like, if I study vocabulary, I will communicate better. And they pointed out that common mistake.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Saying, if I will practice, you just need the present tense in the if part. If I practice.
Got it. Good tip to remember. And again, they encouraged making your own sentences.
Yep. Active practice is always the recommendation. Internalizing the pattern.
Okay, so we have vocabulary, grammar. What about broader communication skills? Did they touch on that?
They did 2 communication tip segments. The first was on storytelling for persuasion.
That fits perfectly with the eco-heroes, doesn't it? Their whole effort was a story.
Absolutely. Storytelling is just fundamental to how we connect and persuade. The eco-heroes didn't just list pollution facts, they told the story of the problem and their solution.
So how do you structure a persuasive story? Do they give pointers?
Yeah, the classic structure. Beginning, set the scene, introduce the problem. Middle, describe the challenge, the actions taken, and show the results, the change.
Like their simple example, park is littered. Beginning, we organize a cleanup. Middle, now the park is beautiful.
Exactly. And they stressed using vivid words like sparkling clean, not just clean, makes it more engaging.
And delivery matters too, right? Your enthusiasm may be pausing for effect.
Definitely. How you tell it is as important as what you tell. And crucially, connecting the story to your audience. What do they care about?
Right, like the eco-heroes focusing on the pollution that bothered the community.
And they shared a little anecdote about a student, Tariq, using storytelling to get his school to start a garden. Makes it feel very practical, something anyone can try.
Nice. Okay, what was the second communication tip?
This one tackles something pretty common, managing interruptions, especially in groups.
Oh, yeah. That could be really tricky, trying to get your point across when people keep jumping in.
It really can derail a conversation. So they offered some polite but effective ways to handle it.
Like what?
Things like acknowledging the interrupter briefly. I hear you, but let me just finish this thought. Or maybe a good point. Can I quickly add this?
So polite but firm. Holding your ground without being rude.
Exactly. Using a calm tone. Maybe saying, I'd like to continue, please. Or, if I could just finish. And then, importantly, inviting them back in later.
How so?
Once you've made your point, asking now what we're going to say. It shows respect, keeps the conversation flowing.
That's good. It maintains the relationship. And they probably mentioned being mindful not to interrupt others, too.
Oh, for sure. Active listening and apologizing if you do cut someone off. Sorry, go ahead. It's a two-way street. They mentioned a student, Rhea, who got better at group discussions by practicing these techniques.
So these are skills you can actually learn and improve. Good to know.
Definitely. It's about navigating those dynamics assertively but also respectfully.
Okay, moving on. They had a cultural corner. How did that connect?
It tied the eco-heroes' local work to, well, the bigger picture, looking at environmental festivals around the world.
Interesting. How do festivals relate to communication?
Well, they create these shared moments where people communicate about environmental issues on a larger scale. They gave two examples.
Which ones?
Earth Hour, starting in Sweden, where people turn off lights together. It sparks conversations about saving energy, eco-habits, and Van Mahotsav in India, a tree planting festival. People share nature stories, discuss conservation.
Ah, I see. These events naturally foster communication about the environment.
Right. They get people talking, maybe learning persuasive phrases like let's protect our planet, and building teamwork through shared activities like planting. It's
Yeah.
communication in action within a culture.
So communication happens individually, but also collectively through these kinds of events. Makes sense. Do they encourage listeners to participate?
Yeah, they suggested finding eco events locally. A great way to practice English and engage with important issues. Win-win.
Good suggestion. Using the real world for practice.
Hmm.
Okay, after all that, was there a call to action?
Yes, a listener challenge. Tying it all together. They called it Tell an Eco Story.
Okay, sounds like fun. What are the steps?
Pretty straightforward. First, think of a short personal story about helping the environment. Could be anything, recycling, planting something, saving water.
Simple stuff counts.
Totally. Second, share that story with someone in English. Friend, family, maybe a speaking club. Third, try to use one of the new vocabulary words like inspire or recycle.
Okay, applying the vocabulary.
And fourth, include a first conditional sentence, like if I recycle this plastic, it can become something new.
Got it. Using the grammar point too. What's the last step?
Just write one sentence about how the experience felt. Did you feel good sharing it? Was it easy, hard? And maybe share that sentence somewhere, like a forum or just a notebook.
I like that. It encourages you to be your own eco-hero, even on a small scale, and practice all these language tools, plus reflection.
Exactly. Making it personal and reinforcing the learning.
Cool. Were there any other tips? Sounds like they packed a lot in.
They did. A few bonus tips. The first was on using tone effectively.
Tone of voice. Super important, but easy to forget.
It really is. How you sound can totally change how people receive your message. Your tone conveys emotion, attitude.
So what was the advice?
Match your tone to the message. You know, sound excited for good news, calm for serious stuff. Practice emphasizing key words to make them stand out. They also suggested recording yourself. Compare how you sound to native speakers. And be aware that tone can be perceived differently across cultures.
Good point. Cultural sensitivity. Do they have an example?
Yeah, someone named Arif apparently improved his presentations a lot just by focusing on his tone. Shows it makes a real difference.
Okay, what was the next bonus tip?
Building empathy in conversations. Crucial for connection.
Empathy. Understanding and sharing someone else's feelings. Definitely key for good communication.
Absolutely. Especially when things get difficult. They suggested using phrases like, I understand how you feel, or that sounds really challenging.
Acknowledging the emotion.
Right. And reflecting back their feelings. If they say they're frustrated, you might say, so you're feeling frustrated, because it shows you're truly listening.
Asking caring questions too, like, how did that affect you?
Yes, and just being present, focused, not distracted. That signals empathy powerfully. They mentioned Sana, who apparently strengthened her relationships using these techniques.
It's about connecting on a human level, not just exchanging information. Makes sense. Was there one more bonus tip?
Yes, the last one was timely. Technology for communication, especially relevant coming from happytalk.in.
Right. How can tech help us communicate better?
Well, in lots of ways. Language apps for vocab, speaking practice, video calls to talk with native speakers or practice partners,
Sure.
speech recognition tools to check your pronunciation, online forums like happytalk.ins maybe for writing and reading practice.
So using tech tools strategically.
Exactly. They shared a story about Kiran who boosted his fluency and confidence using apps daily. It shows tech can be a really powerful ally in learning.
Okay, wow. So let's recap this deep dive. We started with that really inspiring story of the eco-heroes in Santapura.
Which showed communication and action driving real change.
Then we dug into specific tools, key vocabulary words, the first conditional grammar structure.
Followed by practical tips on persuasive storytelling and how to handle those awkward interruptions.
We looked at the cultural side with environmental festivals and got that listener challenge to tell our own eco-story.
And finished with those great bonus steps on tone, building empathy, and using technology effectively.
It's quite a comprehensive look at improving communication, all drawn from the Happy Talk in resources. Hopefully really valuable for you listening.
Definitely. It paints a picture of effective communication as this, well, multifaceted skill. It's about clarity, listening, empathy, storytelling, adapting, all woven together.
So as we wrap up, here's something to think about. What's just one small thing, maybe a vocabulary word, a way to handle an interruption, thinking about your tone that you can try out in your very next conversation?
Hmm. Or maybe take an inspiration from Santapura. Is there a tiny initiative, something you care about in your own community, where applying some of these clear communication ideas could, well, make a little difference?
Yeah. How can you use your voice not just to talk, but to really connect, maybe even inspire a small action in the world right around you, something to mull over?